Oh, hello everyone. Welcome. Welcome. Hello. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about oppositions in astrology. And are you secretly attracting the wrong kind of people into your life? And if you are, and you feel like you don't know why you're doing that, most likely you do have oppositions in your chart in extremely personal places, like your opposition of a first house to a seventh house, which is directly affecting your, real one-on-one relationships, or it's probably got to do with your public realm as opposed to your home realm. So, how do we deal with oppositions? Firstly, how do we even recognize that we have one? Of course, you get your chart read, but yeah, a lot of people do get their chart read, but they're still kind of unaware of, how do you tackle an opposition? And the best way to first recognize that you actually have an opposition is by kind of knowing or thinking about or trying to figure out, or with obviously with the help of an astrologer, trying to dissect and detect whether are you stuck in one pole, or are you somebody who is fluctuating between two poles? Or the third way could be that you've been in one pole for a really long time, and then you go to the another pole. Suddenly, a new chapter of life opens, and you find yourself in this one. And you were suddenly here, and then you find yourself here. These are the times when it's extremely difficult to deal with. Like, it's just really, really, really difficult to deal with. So, rather than talking about it in a traditional way where you say that A is in polarity with B, yeah, if you have an opposition from the first house to the seventh house, it's like your ego versus your partnership versus business partnerships or romantic partnerships or marriage partnerships, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, any one-on-one commitment with anybody else is on odds with your ego or yourself or your identity as well. So maybe when you get into partnerships, you have a serious identity crisis, or there's a crushing of your ego, or you see that the ego is not allowing you to get into partnerships, or it's probably not even ego. I mean, ego gets used so highly, and I don't really believe so much in it. So it would maybe just be that the way yourself is yeah, it's growing in a different direction, and maybe they're not probably the best people that you're attracting right now. So uh, what you need to kind of see when you do get your chart read is to kind of figure out, are you being in one pole for a very long time, meeting another person who is, looking at you as if you are just this one part. Okay, so say we have like magnets, right? Plus and minus, okay, positive and negative. So say your ego or yourself, let me just call it self, let me not get into this. So say, for example, yourself has been kind of crystallized with a certain identity. Now, all of us are consistent with a personality that we think about ourselves, or like an identity that we think we are. Who we think we are is generally like the first house as well. So, and of course, how people see us. But this entity that we feel about ourselves, like we identify with, like, I am, yeah, it could be so many different things. It could just even just be qualities. It could just be like, I'm driven, I'm motivated, yeah. Or for some people, it's like, I'm kind, I'm loving, I'm compassionate, I'm considerate. Some people, it could be like, I'm extremely charitable, I'm extremely peaceful, I'm extremely, for some people, that's a positive quality. For some people, aggression is a positive quality because they see it as drive. So there's just so many ways in which you could literally be seeing yourself. And that is all upon how you are coloring yourself. So if you are someone who is having a slow moving opposition, which is part number one, which I'm talking about in these oppositions, then what happens is that you end up identifying yourself with something. Like, I'm an aggressive person, I'm a driven person, I'm somebody who can get things done, instigated, and I can get through with it. So that's your identity. That's how you look at yourself. Also, that's how you experience yourself as. Now, the opposition, what it generally does is it gets someone into your life who kind of mirrors exactly the opposite of it. Now, instead of being instigative, aggressive, an action taker, you probably attract someone who is exactly the opposite of that, who's probably a slob in your eyes. Maybe they're extremely peaceful and laid back, but because you are having an identity which is associating aggressiveness with drive, with passion, you would see the opposite of it, or it would at least look like the other person's a slob. The other person is mm, not responsible enough for their own lives, is not an action taker. So you would generally see it as a negative quality. Now, this will play out for a very, very, very long time if these oppositions are crystallized. That's why I say, is it a slow moving or a fast moving opposition? If it's a slow moving opposition, you're going to be in this one identity for a really long time till this whole relationship, goes through the grind and, teaches you what it has to teach you, and then the new cycle of life, or like something, when a completely new orbit starts off, and a new planetary orbit starts off, or yeah, anything major happens, is when this switch happens, and now you find yourself on the opposite side of the realm with a completely new identity, which is a revamped identity, in which everything that you hated in the beginning, like in the last cycle, is something that you are drawn towards. Like now, you see being laid back and attracting opportunities or attracting the right kind of people seems the more wiser thing to do. And you see that fast action leads to maybe not the best decisions, and you cannot always get things done in a hurry. You start to have a new perspective on this, because now you're kind of crystallized on the other side, and then you attract somebody from your past, which is actually just an image of yourself, but you attract somebody who comes into your life who is extremely aggressive, who's extremely, now you would look at all those qualities as being negative, because it's against the identity that you are now currently associated with, right? I think you're getting the point. Now you would see somebody who is an action taker, who's passionate, who is driven to be aggressive, to be reckless, to be hot-headed, to be too stimulated, and not having a level head on their shoulders. Now this happens all. This happens all through our lives. The whole idea of astrology, or any other any other esoteric science, you could call it, or whatever you want to call it. I don't want to get into that, but yeah, any kind of reading that you would get yourself done kind of is just about realizing this, that we're going from pole to pole, and it's really not about the other person. It's really just about us, and the past that we just left behind has just come up in a new form as we ourselves are taking a new form. Now, these are the slow moving oppositions. Now, these are difficult to see because the identity generally gets crystallized. Now, the other form of opposition, which is a little bit more fast moving, is when your personality is a little bit more lucid, or not so defined. It's a little bit more lucid. Now, what happens is, here is where you could find yourself going from one pole, like being driven, a passionate action taker, to the opposite of it, that is laid back, relaxed, satisfied, contented. And you could go through these two much faster. That is, you could maybe go through them once in a month, once in a fortnight, or something like that, or like once in 3 months. If it's more than that, I would consider it to be the slow moving. That is the first type. If it's lesser than that, anywhere between 15 days to like 3 months, I would consider it to be like, it's more lucid. The personality is more lucid. Now, in these cases, is it's always difficult to figure it out for the native themselves, because they're in the midst of it. It's really difficult to figure out for the native, unless they're been meditating for a long time, and they're really aware of like their own actions, and they're aware of their thoughts, and they're aware of the way energies flow inside of them. It's really a little bit difficult to figure all these things out. So this is a case in which you are attracting ebbs and flows of people. So it's not necessarily, there won't be necessarily one individual who, come into your life and is playing all these roles. You will be playing these two roles through navigating through society itself, as you navigate through everyday life, through your professional life, or through your yeah, through your social circles. Or it could even be playing out in that way. Even say, for example, a person is a hermit, stays alone, it doesn't matter. uh, it could still be playing out in that their environment and the energy that they feel inside of them could be playing out in this way. Is that for 15 days or for whatever, a month straight, they feel extremely energetic and driven to, go ahead and do their projects. And for the next, whatever, the same amount of days, months, or weeks, they don't feel it at all. They don't feel like they have it in them at all. They just feel extremely tired, or they just feel extremely laid back and not driven to do it. So it's literally the same thing, that you've got these two poles inside of you which are behaving in this manner, in this fashion. And this was the second type. And the third type is what is more closer to what would someone would call as bipolar. Uh, I don't want to use the word disorder because I don't think anything is a disorder. It's just a certain category. Not that normal is not a disorder. I say normal as being a disorder as well, whatever normal means to you. So, bipolarity, generally known as bipolarity, is when the oppositions are moving extremely, extremely fast. That is, that they happen within less than 15 days apart. That is, I'm sorry, it could happen even daily. Like in the morning, you're this one person. In the evening, you're not that same person. By that I mean what you feel about yourself is different. Now, as I said, this could happen like once in 15 days, once a week, oh, once in 3 days, every day, and yeah, multiple times a day. So it could go anywhere between these time cycles, and this is what I would consider as an extremely fast-moving opposition. And this this last one, this third one, allows you to get tired very fast of it. That's the best part about it. Though you might call it as someone who's unstable, or like, has a loss of identity, but this is the easiest way out to get out of an opposition. See, no matter what the opposition is, whether it's slow moving, medium paced, or like fast moving, the whole goal out here is to get out of it and to make them merge and to make them into a superpower. That's the final goal. So I find this third one to be much more easier to get out of, because you just get tired of running from pole to pole, and you're more likely to actually seek for uh, an answer or a solution, or like, ask for more deeper and profound questions in life, so that yeah, you get answers. So this is ideally more easier, in my opinion, to figure out, because they move very, very, very fast. So your personality is, really in one pole, and then the other pole, and one pole, and then the other pole, and you just get tired of it and you want to get out of it. And when you really seek, that is when you seek to transcend, you seek to go beyond. Now, the fourth kind of category, which is not exactly even a category in itself, are oppositions which are not there in your birth chart. Now, how the heck do you figure that out if if there is no opposition in your birth chart at all? You're like, man, I don't have them at all. Like, this is not for me. This video is surely not for me. But you find that in some part of your life, that is maybe in your career, or maybe in your adult life, you suddenly find yourself with this opposite, like this kind of polarization, while in your birth chart just doesn't have it. It's just not there. So, like, what do you make of this, right? Like, it's not easy to figure out at all. Now, why I bring this up is I personally have this, and I would like to demonstrate it via my chart, because it's easier to talk via chart, right? And it's just more interesting to see a chart in front of you. So these, now let me just screen share so you guys can see it as well. There you go. That's my screen going on here. And so yes, now this is actually my birth chart. So here, yes, I do have a Mars in Cancer versus a Venus in Capricorn opposition going on. I don't know if you see the mouse moving. Yeah, there you go. In yeah, the 8th house and the second house. While this is there, it resolves itself later. But this is the birth chart, okay? So now you see the sun out here, right? Sun in my first house on the ascendant. And here we've got a good old Pluto in my 12th house. Yeah, the bringer of all the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful nightmares that I have every night. So here you have Pluto, here you have the sun, and here you have Saturn. Now, could you actually imagine that there could be an opposition between such varied planets who have nothing in common at all? If you know even a little bit of astrology, you need to have some lines connecting something, connecting to parts of a chart, connecting to planets, connecting to houses for you them to even be related to each other. But here they just don't relate. You can see this one. I'll just go in. Yeah. Here's my Pluto, the 12th house. Here's my Sun. Can I zoom in? Yeah, here you go. That's my Sun here. 13 degrees. Okay, Sagittarius. Here's my Pluto and my Mercury on top of each other. 23 degrees, Scorpio. And here's my good old Saturn, 13 degrees in Aquarius. Now they have absolutely nothing going on between them. You can see there are no lines that are connecting these planets. There's literally nothing. So how does this end up becoming an opposition when I become an adult? Now, here is where the hidden things in astrology lie. Now I'll show you something with the numbers out here. You see, Pluto's at 23 degrees, right? Scorpio. Okay, in astrology, you have 30 degrees, okay? Everything is 30 degrees. I think it's easy to see. It's like a clock, basically. Just imagine this like a clock. 12 houses, 12 digits on your clock. Everything is 30 degrees apart. 360 divided by 30, 12. Yeah, so it's just, 30 degrees for a house. So now that I've got 23 degrees in Scorpio, right? So if I'm moving this way, that is, I'm moving, what do you say? I'm moving clockwise from 23 degrees. If I move 20 degrees, I actually hit 13 Sagittarius. And if I move 60 degrees from there, 13 Sagittarius to 13 Aquarius is 60. So 20 and 60 are they. And one more thing, I'll just add one more thing. Scorpio is at 23 Scorpio. Pluto and Mercury are 23 Scorpio, right? 23 out here. 23 Scorpio. I come to Capricorn. I reach. If I calculate 100 degrees from 23 degrees Scorpio, I get 13 degrees here in Aquarius. Now, this is something which is extremely difficult to figure out. You would never have noticed something like this within your chart. And you'd just be like, I just don't have an opposition. So I just, I don't have these things. Like in my birth chart, I don't have it. Like, I mean, I never had an opposition normally, like in terms of my personality or something. Like it was quite clear generally. My sun is on the ascendant. I have my not going on there. Yeah, there was really not that problem. Now, as I grow up, as I get, grow up. Yeah, here you see, sun goes into Leo. And look at these guys. All of them are clustered here, opposing my sun. How the heck did that happen? That's because they were all in multiples of 20. They were literally all in multiples of 20. Now, at 100 degrees is when, one second, I'll just solo my screen again so it's easier. Yeah, so what's happening is at 100 degrees, okay, things get conjunct. So the Saturn is 100 degrees apart from Mercury and Pluto. They get conjunct. And at 40 and 60 degrees, they end up becoming an opposition. So the sun is 60 degrees apart from Saturn. I'll get back, I guess. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's my birth chart. Yeah. So, yeah, the sun is exactly 60 degrees apart from Saturn. That's 13 to 13, Sagittarius to Aquarius. And they end up becoming an opposition. And 100 degrees apart, Pluto, Mercury, 23 degrees Scorpio, 13 degrees Aquarius, 100 degrees apart, they end up becoming a conjunction. Now, Let's pull out the adult chart. There's the adult chart. All of them manifest as an opposition. This is a serious opposition to deal with, man. This is not an easy one. It's not at all an easy one. Like, it's got like all the heavyweights in one ring. Everybody's in one damn house. How do you deal with this? So here you have your son all alone. Yes, it is in the first house. It's in Leo, so it's extremely comfortable. You can say powerful as well, but comfortable mainly. Leo, it's its own house, first house. I mean, the sun is extremely happy there. It gets exalted in the first house in Aries, right? So yeah, so the sun is out here. It's got like this cluster of beasts opposing it. Literally, you've got Pluto, you've got Saturn, and you've got Mercury. All of them became oppositions. Now these are the things I'm talking about that they're extremely difficult to figure out because in your birth chart they just didn't exist. Now suddenly you grow up and you realize that you have a serious opposition. You have like heavyweights tagged against each other, which are enough to take decades to solve. Like that's how dense they are. Now this could have shown up anywhere else also. The ninth harmonic. This is the ninth. I'll get into these things like in the future things. These are advanced charts where you're talking about the higher frequencies within a planet itself. As I said in the first episode, it's the same as music. You have overtones in music. Yeah. So yeah, if you're playing C, you have a C above it and G above that, and then D above that, and C will come again. And the seventh will come, minor seventh will come, B flat will come. And so it keeps going on. So here it happens in the same way. So the so-called adult chart is made from the birth chart. And so things react in a way that later they transmute and they become something completely new. So that is how I ended up having an opposition in my adult chart. Now, this could be in your professional life. It could be in your adult life, like me. It could be in something to do with, yeah, it could be in your, creative zone. It could be, there's a chart literally for everything. Okay. There's like a detailed chart. I mean, there's a detailed chart for everything. It could be in the realm of your consciousness. It could be in the realm of diseases. It could be in the realm of health. They're health and diseases, basically. Yeah, it could be in any realm. But when these oppositions show up, is when you realize that, oh man, I need to figure out, am I a slow moving opposition or a fast moving opposition? Because that's the key to getting aware about this. Now we'll come back to like, how do you deal with these kinds of things? It's basically an A versus B. It's like negative versus positive. Now the whole idea of opposition is to kind of transcend these, is to go beyond and make a merger of this. So well, that's what oppositions are all about. But the first step will be to figure out how you actually do it. That are you slow moving? Are you medium paced? Or are you moving at a speed where you're doing it like it's literally your personality is moving every day? Okay, so that will kind of be the first steps towards figuring out. Now if I say everything in this video is going to get extremely long, so I'm thinking like I was on the verge of doing it, but I'm just rethinking. I guess it's going to be extremely long. I'd rather just break these things up. But in a nutshell, even if you did see your birth chart, there is a very high possibility that you would have easily missed something which would happen later, which would turn up in some other chart. And so it's I mean, if you are into these things, I certainly am. So it's better to kind of see more detailed versions of your chart to understand if they're going to show up in a certain part of life, in a certain specific area of life, to see how they actually evolve and how things within your chart actually intermingle to form various things. Now, since I was on the topic of fast moving versus slow moving, I see myself as slow moving. The sun out here, which is opposing all of these things, is like kind of extremely crystallized. It's just crystallized, man. That's because I had my sun first house in both the birth chart and the adult chart. So what happens is the sun is just crystallized. Crystallized means it's kind of set in its own place. It's just happy where it is. But now it's got these, yeah, as you say, beasts coming up on the other end. So it's kind of going to bring me, in this case, in odds with everything I believe is not me, with all those things that I kind of went against in order to form my sun. Yeah, I might have probably, given my power away because there's Pluto out here. I might have probably given my society away, that I might have broken away from the society. That's my Saturn out here. To make my sun, to create my sun, or to crystallize my sun. That's why it ended up in Leo, because in Leo it crystallized, it's his own house. So now all the things I left behind are the kind of things I meet. And since it's such a dense opposition, it's extremely slow moving, and these these generally take decades to figure out and sort out. So it's not, if it's this slow moving, and if it's like these kind of planets in there, because there's Saturn in Aquarius, it ain't going anywhere. Saturn is the ruler of Aquarius. Sun rules Leo. They're both exactly home. They're not going anywhere. So when you have this kind of opposition, it's like ultra slow. I don't even want to say slow. It's just a stable opposition. It's just like they're just there, man. They're not going to move. You got to figure out how to make these two things meet and how to make sense of them. So these are kind of the three plus the additional one in which it shows up in some other chart of yours, four main types of oppositions. And if you have them, you're most likely attracting people who are exactly not like you, who are there to show you the part of you which you have missed, or which you have gone away from, or against, or whatever you want to call it, left behind in order for greener pastures elsewhere. So that is the, yeah, that's oppositions in a nutshell. Now in the next episode, I'd like to dive into that. I wanted to do this in one. It's not possible. I think it's going to be very long. The next one will kind of go into like how do you go about dealing with this? Like, how the heck do you do it? Yeah, how do you do this? Now, for me, it's in the realm of what do you say, the self, the ego versus the other. It could be in something else as well. It could be maybe the second house, and the eighth house, or the third house, and the ninth house, and yeah, it could be in various different things, and the planets involved also could be, really different. So, so all of that we'll cover in the next episode, where we go deep into oppositions and how do you bring them together. Now, because all the four different types which I spoke about, they all have very different strategies. You cannot make a fast moving opposition. You can't solve it the same way that you move a slow moving one. Yeah. And you can't work with the middle paced one in the same way that you do with a fast or a slow one. And how do you figure this out? You really need to get aware by yourself. Like, I think you're able to do it by yourself, or you're able to do it with someone else who knows these things, and you're able to kind of figure these things out. So yeah, let's dive into the next one, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.